We may have a few more people joining us. So settle down onto your backs, and you can start by lying either with your knees bent or with your legs long. And I think bring your hands onto the front of your body. So you can rest your hands somewhere on the front of the body that feels comfortable for you. And we're just going to start with this process of gathering our attention inward. So how do we feel right now? And this is it's a process. So we could sense our body on the floor, and maybe we could do a couple of little movements to help us feel our bodies right now. So the first one would be to let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And keep it very comfortable, keep it very easy, letting the head roll from side to side. So notice as you're doing this how the neck feels, how the shoulders feel, keeping it easy, and finding a place where you can settle your head. So the center of the back of your head settles on the floor, and it's somewhere that feels comfortable. Notice how the neck feels, and it might be that you feel it would be helpful to then pick up your head in your hands. So interlink your hands around the back of your head, pick up your head, and ever so gently lengthen out the back of your neck, and then settle the head, the center of the back of the head on the floor again. And then bring your hands back onto the front of your body. Gather your attention into your breathing. Feel a cycle or two of breath move through you. So as the breath comes in, feel your body rising, widening. As the breath leaves you, feel the front of your body softening back, emptying a little bit. For another cycle of breath, feel the widening, the filling, the rising. And as you exhale, the softening, the emptying. And if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the floor. Take a moment to feel the back of your pelvis on the floor. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So letting the knees tilt to the right and to the left. So Hilary, we're lying down, unsurprisingly. Yeah. Hilary's just joined us, doing a bit tilting our knees from side to side. So when you've done that, settle in the centre, and you're going to keep your right knee bent, and you're going to lengthen your left leg out on the floor. Maybe now rest your arms down by the side of your body. And you're going to start that little movement where we press into the right foot, we let the right side of the pelvis come away from the floor, and the pelvis tilts to the left. So we're staying heavy and passive through the left leg. We're pressing into the right foot, we're letting the right side of the pelvis come away from the floor. Yeah, that's nice. As you do so, send your knee forwards over your right footprint. Kate O, I think you could possibly have your foot a little closer into your pelvis. It just looks that, yeah, that's it. That's it, good. Good. So it could be you coordinate this movement with your breathing. So it's as you exhale, you press into your foot. The right side of the pelvis lifts. You send your knee forwards over your foot. The pelvis tilts to the left. And just keep repeating this a few more times. And notice how it feels as your pelvis lifts away from the floor. How does it feel in the lower back? How does it feel around the back of the pelvis into the low ribs? And we're just really starting to become aware of how we feel today around, I suppose, the pelvis part of the body. And you can swap sides in your own time and do this on the other side, so with your left foot standing on the floor. And so I just think for so many of us, the lower back, around the pelvis, into the hip joints, the places we feel tight. Hi, Donna. So Donna, we're lying down and we're doing a bit of, we've been doing this one, pressing into one foot. If you can even see me there. Pressing into one foot, and we're on side 2 now. So you could do a little bit on each side. Catch up. So this one. Pressing into one foot. Good. Okay, so yes, doing exactly the same thing on side 2. Pressing into your left foot, letting the left side of the pelvis lift away from the floor. Your pelvis tilts to the right. You notice how it feels, and it might feel quite different on this side. So I was really aware when I've been doing this the last couple of days that on one side it feels a lot less comfortable than the other. And if that's the case, you might do a bit less. You just might be really, really mindful of it, how it feels, and not push yourself. And in a moment, you're going to, well, 2 things. So Hilary, you folded your knees into your chest. That's quite nice. You might like to do that. And then I'd like you to lengthen both legs out on the floor. So you've got that option of folding the knees into the chest, having a little roll around, if that feels good. Again, for lower backs. And then lengthen both legs out on the floor. Give the legs a little bit of a roll or bounce your knees. Yeah, whatever feels nice. Good. And then you're going to lie, we're going to start moving in the upper body. So you're going to lie however is most comfortable, with your legs long or your knees bent. So you make that choice. So what we're going to do now is you're going to take your hands up over your chest. You're going to make a big circle with your arms. So if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, have a look at me. But you're going to take your hands up so they're immediately over your chest, interlink your fingers, and imagine you're holding a big beach ball, so your arms are in a sort of circle shape. And what we're going to do is then start to rock across our upper back, keeping this circle circular, and you're not letting your pelvis move. So you're rocking towards the back of the right shoulder, and then the back of your left shoulder, letting your head go with your arms, but not letting your pelvis and legs move. Very nice. Nice. Yes, lovely. Very nice circles. Good. So rocking side to side, keeping your circle circular, letting your head move in the same direction as your arms. Very nice. And see how this feels across the upper back. We're doing this one first because I always find it's the most comfortable. So if you're feeling tight between the shoulder blades in the upper back, this just starts to ease into that part of the back. Yeah, let the arms rest now for a moment and have a couple of breaths, because we're going to do a couple more variations here. So let the arms rest, let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then you're going to take your arms up again. This time you're going to touch your hands together in prayer pose and make a triangle with your arms. So your elbows are straight, your hands are stuck together. So take the arms up towards the ceiling, Kate. So yeah, you're making a triangle. Elbows straight, hands stuck together. You're doing the same rocking movement now. Rocking from side to side across the upper back. don't let your hands slide. So the hands need to stay stuck together in prayer pose, and your elbows need to stay straight. So again, it's not a huge movement. And let your head rock in the same direction as your arms. Good. And you're leaving your knees in your pelvis and the bottom part of your body quiet. Good. And see how this feels in the muscles between the shoulder blades. So for me, this always feels a bit, oh, I'm getting into some of those tight, knotted up muscles a bit more now. Which, yes, I suppose what I'm trying to say is it maybe feels slightly less comfortable. So rocking from side to side, very nice. And then give your arms a rest whenever you want to. Let the arms come down to rest on the floor beside you. Lovely. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then, yes, Hilary, that is the version we're going to do now. We're going to do the version where you cross your arms over your chest. So as if you're giving yourself a hug. And the same thing, you start to rock a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left across the upper back. Now, it may be much harder to move like this, yeah? You may not be able to go so far. So the elbows are now rocking towards the right and towards the left a little bit, and the head is going with them. And notice how it feels. So when I was doing this, I was thinking, oh, it's not feeling very comfortable. You could try putting the other arm on top and see whether that feels easier or harder, better or worse, or about the same. Also means we're going to be balanced. So a little bit of rocking with the other arm on top. Good. So all these movements might feel that they're quite small, they might feel quite stiff, but we're actually releasing a huge amount of tension. Okay, uncross the arms now, that's it. Let the arms rest on the floor. We're going to come back in a moment, maybe just have a couple of cycles of breath, just feel your body settled on the ground. And we're going to come back to the movement where we're pressing into the right foot. So organise yourself so you've got your right knee bent and your left leg long on the ground. Now to start with, you're going to have your arms resting on the floor. So just come back to exactly what we did before. So pressing down into your right foot, letting your pelvis lift on the right side, letting your pelvis tilt over to the left. And do that a few times. Very nice. And just notice that maybe even now the movement is traveling a little bit further up your spine, possibly from what we've just done. And then I'd like you to give yourself a hug with your arms. So your right arm is on top. So the right arm's on top. So now as you press into your right foot, you can also roll across your upper back towards your left shoulder. That's it, good. And your right fingertips can reach out on the floor, on the left, away from your body. Good. And then come back down again, good. So now the whole of ourselves is rolling over towards the left. So pressing into the right foot, rolling across the upper back, sliding the right fingertips out on the floor towards the left. Good, and just keep repeating this a few times. Keep feeling that you're sending your right knee forwards rather than the right knee rocking too far over to the left. Very nice, good. Good, lovely. So a couple more times on this side and then we'll swap over onto the other side. So when you're ready, come back to the center, uncross your arms, maybe do the same thing with your legs for a moment. And then when you're ready, move on to side 2. So your left knee is bent, your right leg is long. Do it a couple of times without crossing the arms, just to see how it feels when you're pressing into the left foot. And of course, then when you're ready, add in your arms. So crossing, yes, hang on. So cross the arms over the chest. That's it, Bella, yeah. So that's it, good. So the arms are crossed over the chest with the left arm on top. That's it. And the left fingertips reach over towards the right. So it means we can roll across the back of the body. Our weight is shifting onto the right side of our body. This means we're giving ourselves a bit of a massage across our back. Good. So do this once or twice more on this side, and then we're just going to uncross your arms. Let everything go. It might be nice, like you're doing, Hilary, to fold your knees into your chest. Yeah, you can fold your knees into your chest. You can have a little bit of a rock. Yes, exactly, Sarah. You can take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. Take your arms and legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. You don't need to, but it's rather nice. Lovely. Lots of nice arms and legs. Fabulous. And then one last thing we're going to do on our backs is to lengthen the legs out on the floor. So we're going to stretch into our heels. And we're also, if it's comfortable, take the arms up by the sides of your head. You're going to interlink your fingers, and then you can stretch your arms away in the opposite direction to your legs. And if you interlink your fingers, you can then turn the palms away from you. So you're stretching up into your hands and down into your heels. Don't overdo it though, just because you're doing a bit of a stretch out, but it might feel just very nice to be really long from the heels through to the hands. Good. And then we're going to come over into standing. Now, I think because there's quite a few of us today, I'm not going to unmute everyone just yet. We'll come into standing, do a couple of things, and then maybe I'll check in with everyone after that. So come into standing. You can actually see me. Now I have a new standing balance we're going to do shortly. It's one with a couple of mudras. So it's interesting. It's I suppose about being focused and contemplative. So let's just the first thing in standing. Let's have a look at our feet. So we've been on the floor rather a while. So have a look at your feet. Settle them down hip width apart and parallel. And then let's do a bit of rocking and just settling in standing. So the first thing could be a bit of swaying from side to side. It's just about arriving in standing, feeling our feet on the floor. So as we sway, we can feel the shifting weight. We can give our arms a bit of shake out. And we could also alternate with a bit of rocking our weight forwards and back. So I'm now rocking my weight along the length of my footprints forwards and back. Not too far in each direction, particularly Alison with the hangover. Oh, that's not going to be good. And then you could add those movements together and just do a little bit of circling. So you're circling your body over your footprints. Keep letting the arms hang, letting the shoulders drop. So it's all a process. Arriving in standing is a process. We might not feel that we're quite here yet. Might take the rest of the class or even longer than that to feel we fully arrive. So let's just, from this circling, I'm going back, I'm going in the other direction now. So if you're circling, go back in the other direction. From all these little movements, maybe just close your eyes for a moment, a breath or two, and just how is it to be in standing? Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then let's do a few more movements and we'll maybe spend a little bit longer in standing in a moment. So this one, loose, easy, swinging twist. That's it. Let the arms swing, let the hands slap onto your body. Very nice. So let the whole of the body come along. So let the feet move on the floor. I won't say too much about that. So it's an easy, comfortable movement. We do this one a lot, so we don't need to say anything. Really nice. Lovely. And then let's let that go. Could be here all day doing that one. Settle the feet down, just look at your feet for a moment. Bring the arms up and start doing this reaching one where we reach up through one side of the body and then the other. So as I'm reaching up through my right arm, I shift my weight into my right leg and foot. So it's not just through the arms or through the waist, it's from the footprint. We feel one side of the body lengthening and then the other. Now from here in a moment, we're going to sweep down into a forward bend. But if your lower back is feeling a bit vulnerable, you might want to bring your elbows onto your thighs. So from here down into a forward bend, but remember there's always that option to bend your knees and also rest your elbows on your thighs. Good. So see how your forward bend feels. A couple of big exhalations. And on another exhalation, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. Good. Have a little shake out when you come back up. And then, let's see, maybe just watch me for a moment. So we're going to do this balance. This is one we haven't done before that I was excited to discover. And what we do is we bring our non-standing foot round the back of the other ankle. And then we bring the hands like this into these two mudras. So I'll talk you into this. We're going to do it on both sides. So we're going to bring our weight into our right foot first. And so the left foot is going to come round the back of the right ankle. And then the right hand comes up like this and the left palm faces forwards as well. And I'm not just letting my left arm hang, my left elbow is slightly bent. So both palms are facing forwards. The centers of both palms are soft. I'm just seeing how it feels to settle here and have a few breaths. Right palm facing forwards, left palm facing forwards. Shoulders dropping. Feeling the contact of the standing foot on the floor. See if you can feel the flow of your breath through your body. Very nice. See if we can be here for another couple of cycles of breath. Breath coming in, the breath leaving you. Do come down, have a little shake out in your own time. And then let's see how it feels on side two. So settle your feet down, hip width apart and parallel. Have a look at both feet. And maybe just feel yourself in standing for a moment. And at this point, you could find a point to bring your gaze to. As you then start to shift your weight onto your left foot and bring your right foot round the back of your left ankle or shin. The left palm comes to face forwards, the right palm lower down, right elbow's a little bit bent. Good. How does it feel to be on this second side? The centers of the palms are soft, palms facing forwards, settling our weight down through our standing foot. And then coming to the breathing. See if you can locate the flow of your breath in your body. Feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. Good. Come down and have a little bit of a shake out. We're going to come and move into a sequence in a moment. I'm just going to come and, is everyone okay? Is everyone okay? Yes, good. I've got this, there's a new thing in Zoom where I can't unmute everyone at the same time. So do feel that you can unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, yeah? And there are quite a few of you today, and it will get a bit noisy as well as take a lot of time. So look, come to the backs of your mats. We're going to do a sequence of some variations going down towards the floor. So we'll be starting off like we do with sun salutes, at the back of, however, at the back of the mat, with the mat facing forwards. So feet hip width apart, hands in prayer pose. I'll just get my hair out of the way. We're going to start to move down into hands and knees. So from here, touching the hands in prayer pose, let a breath come in, and as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Let the breath come in, drop the shoulders, and as you exhale, down into a forward bend. Have a few breaths in your forward bend. Remember, you could keep your elbows resting on your thighs if your lower back needs that support. Breathing, feeling the weight through your feet, and then start to walk your hands forwards into dog pose and see how dog pose feels. So first dog pose, we might feel quite stiff. We might need to bend the knees a lot. We're not going to stay in this dog long. We're just going to have another breath or two. So bending both knees together, bending one knee at a time. Whatever you like. And then down onto hands and knees. So come onto hands and knees and settle yourself on hands and knees. So your hands are under your shoulders. Yeah, that's right. And your knees are under your hips. And we're going to do some cat movements here. So rounding our back to the ceiling, dipping our spine down to the floor, and using these movements to help continue that process of, how do we feel today? How does the back feel? When we round our back to the ceiling, how does it feel? When we dip our spine down to the floor, how does it feel? But as well as how does it feel, we can start to be releasing tension through these movements, finding greater mobility through the spine. So rounding and dipping. Let your breath flow in and out as it wants to. So there's no right or wrong way to breathe here. Couple more times. And then from your rounded cat, rounding your back to the ceiling with your feet flat, rock your hips back over your heels and come to settle in child pose for a couple of breaths. And I'll just come have a look at you. So settling in child pose. Lovely, very nice. Have a couple of breaths here. So maybe one more cycle of breath. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then come back onto hands and knees. And then this time on hands and knees, you're going to bring one foot forwards into lunge. So organise yourself in lunge to start with. So your foot's obviously on the floor, isn't it, between your hands. We start with the heel under the front knee. But I thought it might be nice to do a bit of easing in and out of lunge. So once you've had a few breaths here, feeling the weight of the pelvis dropping, you can untuck your back toe and you could do a bit of this sort of easing forwards and back. So as I come forwards, I maybe come onto my fingertips and I look forwards. As I rock back, I'm keeping this front knee bent. My chest is staying close to my thigh, coming onto my heel, and I'm looking back. The back's rounded. So some of you know this really well, but if it's not so familiar, it's just quite a nice way to be easing in and out of lunge. And we're still doing these cat-like movements through the spine. So in a moment, we're going to change sides in lunge. So you could go through dog pose if you wanted, or you could change sides in lunge on hands and knees. So that's completely up to you. So stepping the other foot forwards. So side 2 of lunge, and have a few breaths here just to arrive in lunge. So at this point, I've got my back toes tucked under. You could have your toes flat, whatever you prefer. We're giving the weight of the pelvis down to the ground. All this lovely stretch and opening here. And then we can start easing in and out. So back toe, for me anyway, it's better if my back toe is flat at this point. My back foot is flat. So back and then forwards. And it might be that you, as you go back, you want to walk your hands back a little bit, and that's fine. Looking back. Looking forwards. Breathing, easing, yes, good, good. From our lunge, we are all going to go into dog pose now. So you could be going straight from your lunge or from hands and knees. So when you're ready, planting your hands down, tucking your back toe under, stepping up into dog, or moving from hands and knees, tucking your toes under, rocking yourself up into dog. And it might be quite a long dog, having stepped from lunge, so do walk your feet in a little bit if you like. Have a few breaths here, bending both knees, bending one knee. I'm going to have a little look at you. From this dog pose, we will be making our way back into standing. So you'll be going from dog into a forward bend, and then stay in your forward bend for a few breaths. So in your own time, arriving in a forward bend. And we'll roll up into standing, touching the backs of the hands together. So like we do in sun salute. So touch the backs of the hands together, let a breath come in. And as you exhale, you're rolling up into standing, touching the backs of the hands together. The hands trail up the front of your body, all the way up to the ceiling. You take your arms wide, you breathe in, you exhale. Good. With a big circle. Okay, so we're back at the back of our mats, hopefully, with our hands in prayer pose. We're going to go back down again and do some slightly different things. So, starting here, let the breath come in. As you exhale, take the arms down and then up. Let the breath come in, drop the shoulders, exhaling down into your forward bend. And again, when you're ready, on into dog pose. How does it feel? Bending both knees, bending one knee at a time. A few breaths in dog. And I'll have a little look at you. Yes, very nice, lovely. The dogs look like they're sort of starting to ease out a bit. And from dog pose, come down onto hands and knees once again. So we're going to do our cat movements again, but we're going to add in some rocking back and forwards with them. So you could watch me, but you could probably follow this just by doing it with me. So see how, maybe try that first of all. So hands and knees, tucking your toes under, your hands are under your shoulders. So you're going to round your back to the ceiling. And staying rounded, you're going to rock your hips back over your heels, so looking back towards your feet. And then you're going to come forwards by dipping your spine down a little bit. So you might soften your elbows, travel forwards, back to your starting point, dipping your spine down. And then again, round your back to the ceiling. Stay rounded to rock your hips back over your heels. At this point, maybe let a breath come in. And as you exhale, you travel forwards, letting your spine dip down a little bit, bending your elbows a little, not too much, can be too distracting. So rounding up, rocking back, maybe letting a breath come in here, and then as you come forwards on an out breath, dipping the spine down, bending the elbows. So we'll carry on with this, rounding up, staying rounded to rock back, traveling back onto hands and knees by dipping the spine down, moving on the exhalation. So I'm just going to have a look at you. If anyone feels confused, do unmute yourself and ask me. Looks very nice. That's it, yeah. If you're bending your elbows to move forwards in that, this bit here, try and bend the elbows back towards you rather than out to the sides, because that's a little bit more effective in moving the upper back. But sometimes we can get, we can get sort of overly focused on bending the elbows too much. It looks really nice. Well done, everyone. Good. Good. Really nice. When you've had enough of this, you're going to untuck your toes. You're going to round your back to the ceiling and rock all the way back into child. Good. And have a couple of breaths in child pose. Let the elbows come onto the floor. Let the forehead come onto the floor. Yes, and then we're all going to, from child pose, we're all going to join Kate on our belly. So you're going to slither forwards onto your belly, and you're going to bring your hands so you can rest one hand on top of the other, and your forehead can rest on top of your hands. So yeah, not quite, yes, Kate. So if you just change your arms, so you've got one hand on top of the other in front of you, and your forehead can rest on the back of your hand. And just settle. So settle on your belly. Give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So I have ever since we got into the strange lockdown situation, we've been doing a bit on our bellies, as it's meant to be good for our breathing, for our lung capacity, our ribs. All I'd like you to do here is a little movement as you exhale, sinking down into your forearms and elbows and lifting your head, and trying to feel that the muscles in the upper back are part of this movement. So lifting down, pressing down through the forearms, the elbows, lifting your forehead away from the back of your hands. The chest maybe, top of the chest maybe comes up a little bit. Yes, it will do. Good. Make sure you're not overdoing it in the neck, yeah? So make sure the back of the neck stays feeling comfortable. Good, good. Very nice, yeah. So just a few times doing this movement, lovely. Moving as you exhale. So as you exhale, it's easier to sink down into the floor. That's nice. Very nice. And then everyone apart from Kate might like to fold back into child pose. Just for a breath or two, because we're coming back onto hands and knees. And this time we're coming into a longer hands and knees position. So if you're in child pose, planting your hands on the floor from child pose and then coming up onto hands and knees could be quite helpful. It could give you this longer hands and knees position. So come back onto hands and knees in this longer distance. So your hands are not under your shoulders, they're a bit further forwards. And we're just going to start this beginning of thinking about moving towards face up dog. So if I'm talking tentatively, it's because I'd like you to move, just, yeah, not rushing into face up dog. How is it to start to feel that we're rocking our pelvis forwards? We're bringing our weight into our arms. It might be that you feel you can let your pelvis go completely and hang in face up dog, but we're going to do some other face up dogs in a moment, so don't feel that this is the only opportunity. Okay, and whenever you need to take the weight off your hands and your wrists, you're going to rock back into child pose again, or Kate, you're going to lie on your belly. So settle back down. Rocking into, and Kate, then Kate, you may need to come into, because we're going to go into a standing through a slightly different way, but you may need to do it through dog. I'm not entirely sure. That's nice, Kate. So, so other Kate, Kate M is the one. Sorry, confusion of the Kates here. Kate M is the one who's struggling with child pose at the moment because of a knee injury. So those of you who are in child pose, what I would like you to do is lift up your bottom and tuck your toes under, and then start to walk your hands in towards your knees. Now, Kate M, we're going to be, you might want to go through dog pose into a forward bend. The rest of you, so from having walked your hands into your knees in child with your toes tucked under, can you then pick your knees up off the floor? So we're coming into this little crouching position. We could do a little bit of rocking here on the balls of our feet. How does this feel? Good. And then from here, you're going to be sending your heels down towards the floor and your sit bones up towards the ceiling. So we come back into a forward bend. So if we all hopefully now are in a forward bend, weight in the footprints, bring the backs of your hands to touch. So we're going to roll up into standing, touching the backs of the hands, sweeping the hands up the front of the body, all the way up into standing. If you feel this time that you want to do, we'd like to do a little standing back arch, you could do. So letting your pelvis come forwards as your gaze comes up. Good. And then very nice, beautiful. And then release the arms. Bring the hands back into prayer pose. We're going to go once more down onto the ground and do some different things. So hands in prayer pose. Let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Let the breath come in. Drop the shoulders. Exhaling into your forward bend. Seeing how it feels. Arrive in that forward bend. Have a couple of breaths. And then on into dog pose. Big, big handprints on the floor. Walking forwards into dog. Don't worry if your heels come up. That's fine. Bending one knee. Bending the other. And then from dog pose, back onto hands and knees once more. And this will be a normal length hands and knees, at least to start with. And we're going to do a bit of tail wagging. So you're going to be imagining you have a tail, a dog's tail, a fish's tail. And you're going to start to wag your tail if you're a dog. I was thinking about cat's tails. So it could also be if you're swishing your tail. For those of you who've got cats, you'll be swishing your tail from side to side. I think I always feel a bit alarmed by cat's tails. So it's usually a sign the cat isn't happy. So it might be a beautiful fish's tail swishing from side to side. And then we could also do our little fishes. So the similar movement by swinging our lower legs from side to side. Yeah. If we swing our lower legs from side to side, that's it. That takes the pelvis into this side bending movement. And then just come back to a little bit more tail wagging. Can you move the pelvis to the right and to the left? Just for a moment, sit back over your heels and give your hands a shake out. If kneeling's not comfortable, come to here, that's fine. Just so you can give your hands a shake out. Some of you know this really well. If you're not so familiar with this, we're going to be coming onto a longer hands and knees. And we're going to use this tail wagging movement to take us back to child pose and forwards into face up dog. So it's a bit more snake-like. We're going through the whole of the animal kingdom here, ending up with this sort of snake, this snaking movement of our pelvis forwards and back, taking us into child pose, taking us into face up dog. Seeing how it feels. And again, just, you know, we often do this one because it can be quite a nice way of sneaking ourselves into face up dog. But again, if it doesn't feel good in your pelvis, don't do it. So really try and find this side to side movement of the pelvis. So we're moving forwards and back by snaking our pelvis from side to side. And whenever you would like to have a few quiet breaths, fold back into child pose. And have a few quiet breaths in child. So settle in child pose. Let your forehead touch the ground, or wherever it comes to, let the elbows rest down. We're going to do one more variation into face up dog in a moment. Obviously, if you've had enough, do stop at this point. Yes, or lying down, Kate, that's nice. So again, as lots of you know, the other way we often go into face up dog is through using the rounded cat movements. So if you know what I'm talking about, you can do it. If you want to have a look, I will show you. So again, you've got your longer hands and knees position. We're tucking the toes under. We're rounding our back up. We're rocking our hips back over our heels, letting a breath come in here. And then as we exhale, traveling forwards, rounding the back, looking at the pelvis. When the shoulders are over the hands, then we untuck the toes and let the pelvis go. I was slightly too short. So I'll unwind that, I'll talk you through it again. So rocking back, tucking the toes under, rounded, and then traveling forwards on an out breath, rounding the back to the ceiling. Watching your pelvis come forwards. Keep watching your pelvis come forwards as long as you can, until the shoulders are over the wrists and you let your pelvis go. You can try that one more time. So from face up dog, start to travel back, rounding your back, tucking your toes under all the way back very rounded, looking back. Let the breath come in and then traveling forwards, rounding your back to the ceiling, all the way into your face up dog. Very nice. And yes, Kate, I'm just thinking this next thing may not, this is Kate M, sorry, the Kate confusion. This next thing may not work for you because it comes from child pose, but so you could do movements on your belly, in fact. Everyone else folding into child pose. So just, yeah, have a little breather in child. And Kate, I'm just going to Yes, Kate. Kate in the white trousers. So you could, when we're doing this next thing, you could do some little movements on your belly if you like. So, or even coming towards cobra on your belly. So,
thank you.
Lucky you. So I'll mute you again. So look, everyone else, you may hate. You may so you may hate this. That's not a good way to introduce this, is it? But probably wanting to do what Kate's doing is you're going to be coming from child pose into kneeling. I've got a couple of blocks here, and you may need books to put your hands on, because we're going to do this sort of mini camel where we have the fingers on the floor, or the knuckles. We press down into the tops of the feet, and we're letting the pelvis come up. So it is a really strong stretch through the quads. But for some of us, it might work better. And this is so much body proportion, you know, proportion of arms to pelvis and everything. Or if you want your hands flat on the floor, you might need to put something under your hands on each side. Now in this one, my knees do tend to wander apart a bit, which I'm trying to avoid. I personally wouldn't let my head hang back, but some of you might want to. We're just going to do this a few times. Oh, this delightful stretch through the quads. I'll come and have a look at you. Oh. Yeah. Let's have a look. Yes. So it may not feel you can go very far. You may have done more than enough of that one. Good. Very nice. Very nice. Well done. Okay, and then from there, one last dog pose. Might not be one last dog pose, but we're going to be coming up through dog and a forward bend back into standing. So come onto hands and knees. And this dog pose, if you like, you could do some of your one-legged dog poses in it, if you felt that that would be quite a nice thing to do. So coming into one last dog pose. I keep saying this, but I think there might be another one. Yes, so in your dog pose, if you wanted to do any of your one-legged variations when you're in your dog, yes, you don't have to. And you know, there's all these one-leg variations, aren't they? To take a leg up, you can keep your pelvis level, you can roll the pelvis towards the, so the raised leg side of the pelvis comes up. You can bend your raised leg, exactly. Good. But if you don't like them, if you try those one-legged dogs and you just think, oh, that's really not for me today, then don't do them. And obviously from your dog pose, you come into your forward bend. And from your forward bend, we'll roll up into standing, touching the backs of the hands together. So we come up into standing, and we can come all the way, if you like, into a standing back arch. That's very beautiful. The core doesn't have to be a huge one. Let the pelvis come forwards, and let the tailbone drop by bending the knee. And then a little bit of a shake out. So we're going to revisit the balance we did, and then after that I might unmute everyone just for the next couple of things because it's all a bit quiet. So I want to revisit the balance, and I was just going to say to you, the two hands in it, they each have a meaning. So the hand, the top hand, this is a Abhaya mudra, and it's about courage and fearlessness. And this bottom hand, I can't remember the name of the mudra, but it's about forgiveness. So maybe it's fearlessness and forgiveness. And I was just thinking, maybe with those two things, that's perhaps all we need in life. So settle in standing. So maybe a little bit of swaying. Maybe before we come into the balance, feeling yourself in standing. So that could be closing your eyes. So just how does it feel to be in standing? You could be swaying a bit, you could just be settling in standing, letting the shoulders drop, letting the arms hang. So we're going to be coming to stand on the right foot first. So opening the eyes at this point, bringing your gaze to focus on a point, a soft focus. Shifting your weight onto your right foot, and the left foot comes around the back of the right ankle. We bring the right hand up. This is our courageousness, our fearlessness. We bring the left hand to face forwards, and we see how we can settle here. Letting the shoulders drop, letting the breath flow through us. Feeling that the centers of the palms are soft. Very nice. Come down, have a little shake out of arms and legs. And having a look at your feet, settling the feet down back into Tadasana, hip width apart and parallel. And then starting the process of shifting your weight over onto the left foot. So we can come onto the ball of the right foot, we can bring the right foot around the back of the left, the calf or shin. The left hand comes up, the right palm faces forwards, right elbow's a little bit bent. We come back into our balance, and we have these two qualities of fearlessness and forgiveness. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then coming down, having a little bit of a shake out. And I am going to unmute everyone at this point. It's a bit, if it gets noisy your end, mute yourselves. Some of you might have to, yeah, some of you I'm having to ask you to unmute yourselves. So if you're still muted and you want to be unmuted, you might have to do it yourself. Now, Sarah, you probably just want to do part one of this. You might have not wanted to do this because of the wrists. Let's see what we are. There's one more dog pose we're going to be doing. So we're going to be going down through a forward bend, walking our hands into dog, but going a bit further so that we could go into plank from that dog pose. And then we're going to be going a bit further from this from the floor. So from the back of your mat, let's just roll down and just let the arms hang this time for your forward bend. So arms hanging, heavy shoulders, heavy head, rooted through your heels. Seeing how this really is the last forward bend feels. And then this really is the last dog. So walking forwards into dog, and make this a longer dog because you're going to be seeing how it feels to rock from dog pose into plank pose. So how does it feel to be supporting our weight through the bones of our arms in plank? Keep really sending the heels back behind you. We're trying to find our long, straight line of plank pose. And whenever you've had enough in your plank, come down, sit back over your heels. You could be in up kneeling as well, and give your hands a shake out. And come to this one where you're touching the backs of your hands together. And then I'm just going to, so not everyone may want to do this next one, which is we're going to come back into plank, and then from plank we're going to be rolling into side plank. So look, there are these 2 foot options. Can you see I've got my feet one in front of the other, Or I've got my feet one on top of the other, and then, oh, what a delight. We come into our side. Oh, we come into our side plank, and we have to do it on both sides. So if you feel that that would be a nice thing to do, make sure you're far enough forwards on your mat. So shoulders over your wrists. You're going to come into a really fantastic plank to start with before you get overexcited about the wonderful prospect of side plank. And then we roll, first of all, onto the sides of the feet. And you can keep the feet so one is in front of the other, or you can bring the front foot to stand on top of the back foot. And then, what's it like to bring your arm off the floor to try and feel you're in this long, straight line of side plank. And some of you, oh, yes, no one love this. That's it. Very nice. Good. Yes, and you can try both sides. You might need to come down in between sides. I don't. Oh. Yes, lots of shaking out of hands, I think. Good. And it might be much easier one side than the other. Shall I talk you in on the other side? So if you're keen to do side 2, so you've got your shoulders over your hands. We're lengthening our legs back behind us. So we want to feel that we're in this long line of plank where our pelvis is not sagging down to the floor. Because when we roll over into side plank, there's much more of a sort of temptation for the weight of the pelvis to sink down to the ground. Oh, lovely. Now, give the hands a bit of a shake out. And then from side plank, we're going to come into another sideways movement, but one that is still a balance, but isn't quite as effortful. We're going to come on into, and I think I'll mute everyone at this point because it's getting a little bit clunky. We're going to come on into this one, Anantasana. So if you organise yourself on one side, so if you can see I'm lying on my side, I've got my head propped up in my hand, but you could have this arm long, or you could have your head down, and the hands on the floor to balance yourself. So it's another, yeah, sort of think about the sides of ourself, but without being quite as effortful as side plank. Good. So settling down in Anantasana. We're feeling the side of ourself on the floor. If you've got your top hand on the floor in front of you, you can rock a little bit forwards and back. Yeah. So this is quite a good way of massaging through the side of the body. See how this feels. And it's also about trying to settle and find some balance. A little bit of rocking here. And then settling down. And what would it be like to come to tree pose on your side? So the top leg is coming into tree. It might be that you need to use your top hand to catch your ankle if you want to bring it further up your thigh. And then have a few breaths here. And again, you could, if you're feeling very steady, this top hand could come off the floor. It could rest somewhere on your top thigh, or you could have your fingertips or your hand on the floor in front of you. And then from here, we bend this top knee in towards the armpit on the top side of the body. Now, if you're feeling very wobbly at this point, bend your bottom knee and slide it forwards. Otherwise, keep that bottom leg long. And from here, you catch your top big toe or your trouser leg or your ankle, and you lengthen your top leg up towards the ceiling, having a few breaths here. So at this point, wherever you are, sending your awareness into both heels, into the elbow that's on the floor, feeling the length of the side of your body on the ground. And then something I often forget is to try and come out of here mindfully. So reversing the movement, folding the knee back towards your armpit, coming back into tree pose, lengthening that top leg out. Can we come back to where we started with 2 long legs? Can we lie our arm along the top side of our body? And from here, you're going to roll onto your belly and just have a few breaths on your belly. So it might be quite nice to wiggle the pelvis a bit and have your arms however you like. You might like to have the side of your head on the floor rather than your forehead. And just see how it feels to breathe, lie and breathe on your belly and rest. And then of course we will be doing side 2 of Anantasana. So when you're ready, you're going to organise yourself on side 2. So coming onto the other side, we've got the head propped up in the hand, or we have this top arm long on the floor, or we bend the elbow to support the head. We've got the top hand maybe on the floor in front of us. We do a little bit of rocking, forwards and back, settling the side of the body onto the ground. Stretching into the heels is quite helpful at this point. So the heels, we're sending the heels away from us. We've got the outer edge, part of the outer edge of the bottom foot is in contact with the ground. And then let's see what's it like to bring the top leg into tree pose. Wobbly. Here we go. A few breaths here. And then that knee can come on towards your armpit. At this point, remember, you can always bend your bottom leg, slide that leg forwards if you're feeling unsteady. Otherwise, keep the bottom leg long. And then we catch the trouser leg, the big toe. Growing, sorry. Growing that leg up towards the ceiling. Can we have a few breaths wherever we are? So if any of these positions don't work for you, it's fine to be staying here. It's fine to be staying in tree pose. It's fine to stay with both legs long. So from here, let's again, slowly, if possible, slowly and mindfully make our way out. Back to tree pose, back to 2 long legs. Can we settle on our side? Can we have the top arm along the side of the body? And then once more from here, we're going to roll onto the belly for a couple of breaths. And settle down. Might be nice to have the side of your head on the floor. Give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle if you haven't been doing so already. And then I know some of you like this one where we bend the knees. We bend the knees, we orientate the feet towards the ceiling, we tilt the feet from side to side. I know some of you don't like this one, so don't do it. And look at me if you're not sure. Rocking the feet from side to side. And everyone apart from Kate M, from being on your belly, is going to fold into child pose. So I'm just going to see how we're doing time-wise. Good. So from child pose, we're going to, or from lying on your belly, Kate, you're going to come and sit leaning back on your arms with your legs out in front of you. And I'm just thinking, we're going to have another period of sound. So let me Let me, as you're doing this next thing, I will unmute you. So it's quite good. Look, I've rolled up my mat. I'm leaning back on my arms. We're going to be sliding one foot in. It's much better if this leg is not on a sticky yoga mat. So my rug is quite smooth. If you've got a wooden floor, that could be quite nice. So that's it, your knee. We're not trying to go as far as we can. It's just, what's this journey from the leg being long to the knee starting to bend? And repeat that a few times on that side. And then I will come and unmute people while we're doing that. Try not to mute myself in the process. Good. You can swap onto the second leg if you like. If you haven't swapped onto leg 2, swap onto leg 2. So we're just, we're trying to be quite lazy. They're quite lazy with these movements. We could then do both legs. So it's obviously bringing us towards cobbler pose, which, is not always everyone's favourite. So let's end up in cobbler pose. And then we're going to come on into pinwheel, but not perhaps stay here as long as we always do. So let one knee, I don't mind which, let one knee come on top of the other, and then slide this top leg back. Is this all right? Bella, is this okay for you? I'll do a little bit of circling in pinwheel. Yeah, very nice, beautiful. So just a little bit of circling and settling. And yes, I'm afraid, Sharon, it will be a bit of pigeon pose.
That's good.
So, which I know, again, is not always everyone's favourite, but perhaps the more we do it, and we don't want to push these things. We just want to go in and see how they are. So rather than folding forwards in pinwheel, we're going to, so this knee here that's turning out to the side, we're going to slide that knee back a little bit. And then we're going to lengthen this other leg back, tucking the toes under, and see how it feels to come into pigeon pose. Now, for some of you, Kate, with your bad front knee, you need to make sure you're right off on the side. And this might be the case for some of you. So you can keep your weight through your bent front leg, all the way up to the hip joint. Some of you can roll all the way over into pigeon. And then just remember, you've got these different options in pigeon. You could be up on your hands. You could be on your elbows, which is sort of the middle point. Or you could be coming all the way down towards the floor. And just find a place where for you could be comfortable, happy, yeah? And it's not going to be the same for every one of us. And it's not going to be the same on each side. Have a few breaths. And you can rock a little bit in pigeon. Any sort of rocking that might be helpful. Rocking and breathing and settling. Very, very quiet. So that's just the effect of pigeons. So we won't be here too much longer, just maybe another cycle of breath. And then we'll move on to side 2, see how it feels. So come out by rolling onto your front leg hip joint. So I think with any of these movements, and then just lengthen both legs out behind, no, not behind you, in front of you. That'd be hard. All these things that we can feel challenging, it can be so tempting not to do them. And actually, it's maybe we just do a little bit, and we do a little bit regularly. So cobbler pose, coming onto the other side of pinwheel. A bit of circling here. And I suppose equally there's that thing, if something is challenging, and it very much depends on our our personality. Either we avoid it or we go at it a bit too hard. So I was just thinking about that thing about forgiveness and fearlessness. We need to try and balance those in our yoga. So a bit of circling And then let this knee move back a little bit. Start to lean forward, start to walk your back leg back. So we're coming on into our pigeon pose on this side. And just remembering, for some of you, your pigeon pose is going to be a bit lopsided because you're protecting your knee, and that's absolutely fine. You have your weight going all the way up to through the top of your front leg thigh. And others of you, you can bring your pelvis a bit more level. And you could be on your hands, on your elbows, or folding all the way down. And so it's just this judging for you right now on this second side of pigeon, where is the most helpful place to be? It's a place when we think about forgiving, it's about this, not pushing ourselves too much. A place where we can be comfortable. When we think about the fearlessness, it's maybe, just trying something. If it doesn't feel right, then moving away from it. And just another couple of breaths in this side of pigeon. And then rolling out, lengthening, getting the legs a bit of a out.
So that feels very different on each side.
Pigeon, is that Kate? Is that Kate?
Yeah. Kate, oh, yes.
Yes, I think it really does, doesn't it, pigeon? It shows up all those differences between our hips, and yeah. And I think we're not trying to, we're never going to feel the same on both sides, and that would be boring. But yeah, it does feel really different. Now look, we're going to do just some little twisty things in sitting. So from here, bend your right knee and bring that foot in towards you. So some of us, we did this on Wednesday. We're doing it again now. So we've got this space between the foot. You've got your hip width distance between the foot and the leg. You're not trying to bring your foot as close to your leg as possible, but you are trying to bring your heel quite close to your bottom. The foot standing on the floor. And look, we can then turn. We can turn towards and away from this front leg. We're using the leg to help support our spine. And we're also using the other hand. So one arm is holding around the leg. The other hand can come onto the floor behind you. So it's often really hard in these sitting things to feel upright, to not feel that our spine is sort of collapsing backwards, but we're using our hands here and we're supporting. Now, let's try stepping this foot over the long leg. And as I do so, I tend to move my long leg a bit more into the center. And then we're going to be turning towards the bent leg. We have this mudra. We can come back to this abaya mudra. So you can see this one in yoga pictures a lot. The elbow comes onto the inside of the knee. The hand faces forward. The center of the palm is soft. So this is one option. Some of you might prefer or like to try bending that bottom leg. Yeah, but I think anyone with any knee issues, or just, it might be that you bend the bottom leg and then you can't sit down on the floor. So you've got these options. Either the bottom leg is bent or the bottom leg is straight. We've got this hand in abaya mudra, so this gesture of fearlessness. We also want to keep a little bit of forgiveness here as well. Another breath or so here. And then untwisting. Let the legs lengthen forwards, lean back onto your hands. And we'll try the other side. So one of the good things about twists when we're sitting is that the pelvis and the legs are quite fixed. The challenge is about the spine not collapsing and not bringing into, tension, particularly around here. So remember, you've got your hip width distance, your heel's quite close in towards you. We hold on to this leg to help our spine lengthen upwards, to help this leg relax. We've still got this hand. Yeah. So depending which way we're turning, We've got the other hand on the floor behind us. So we've got all these supports for the spine, which maybe mean that this leg can relax a little bit on the floor. Okay. And then we try stepping this foot over the long leg. See how that feels. And we turn towards this bent leg. We've got our hand coming into Abhaya Mudra, soft center of the palm. So that's one option. And then the other option is to bend this bottom leg. So I'll leave it up to you what you feel like doing on this side. Usually you're probably going to find that one helps you to feel a bit more settled and steady than the other. And then just have a couple more breaths here. Very nice and Abhaya Mudra, beautiful. Soft center of the palm. And we can untwist, we can lengthen our legs out in front of us, give the legs a little bit of a roll. And we're going to finish now with a little bit of quiet sitting with another couple of different mudras, one which I just, we did my mudra book yesterday and we discovered this one which I really love, and it's very appropriate, I think, for these times. So make yourselves comfortable. So sitting, your back to a wall, sitting, yeah, back to a wall, sitting on a cushion. It's about comfortable sitting now. Take your time, your legs don't have to be crossed, you could be kneeling. Wherever you sit most comfortably, your legs. Yeah, kneeling, back to the wall. What else was that? Comfortable. So in a moment, I'm going to mute you. So look, in this one, we start with this sort of classic mudra, which is Jnana Mudra, the thumb and the index finger touch. When you turn the palms down, it's Chin Mudra, but we're doing this one. And we're just going to rest the hands on the back of the thighs. So that's all very straightforward. And then I'll come close up, because from here, we come to this beautiful mudra. So the left hand turns to face your chest, still keeping the thumb and index finger touching. The right hand turns away from your chest, and so you touch the index finger and thumb of the right hand to the middle finger of the left hand. Can you see? A bit light there. So I've got my left hand faces my chest, my right hand faces away from my chest. I'm touching the index finger and thumb of the right hand to the middle finger of the left hand. I'll be there. Yes. Okay. And these, well, I'll talk you into it when we're there, but these, the hand that's facing you, the left hand, symbolizes yourself, your inner world. And the hand that's turned away from you symbolizes the rest of the world. And there's this connection between the two that we need for harmony. So I thought this is quite pertinent at the moment. Release your hands. I'll talk you back into that one once we're settled. And maybe just start by not even touching your fingers together and resting the backs of your hands on your thighs. And I'll mute you now. So with the backs of the hands on the thighs. So remember, if you're sitting against a wall, try to avoid the temptation of leaning your head on the wall and let your head come to settle on the top of your spine. Maybe a big exhalation or two so the shoulders can drop. The pelvis can be heavy. We're resting the backs of our hands on our thighs. And from here, you can bring the pads of your thumbs and index fingers to touch. And have a couple of breaths here with the hands still resting on the back of your thighs. So that point of connection between the thumb and the index finger gives us a focus for our attention. We can still also be aware of the flow of the breath through us, but we can feel the joining of the thumb and the index finger in each hand. And then from here, we'll bring the hands on into this, it's called Dharma Chakra Mudra. So bring your left hand, the palm facing your chest. Bring your right hand, the palm turned away from your chest. And then touch your right index finger and thumb to your left middle finger. And once you've made this connection between those three fingers, 2 fingers and thumb, you want to then soften your shoulders and just soften. And then have a few breaths here. So I've got my hands maybe 3 inches or so away from my chest. So I want to feel that my arms are as relaxed as possible. And I'm feeling that contact of those 3 fingers. And I'm also feeling how one palm, my right palm, is turned outwards to the outer world. And my left palm is turned towards me, to my inner world. And that for all of us to feel at ease. This balance between our inner and our outer world is very important. We'll just maybe have 2 or 3 more cycles of breath here. If your arms get achy, then release the mudra at any time and rest your hands on your thighs. And in your own time, you're going to release your hands. Bring the palms of your hands onto your thighs. Just feel a cycle or 2 of breath move through you. And then you can fold forwards and bring your hands to the ground. Let your head fall forwards. If you want to touch your forehead onto the ground, you can. And we'll then lie down for the last couple of minutes. So settle down onto your backs. If you need, just be heating up, but if you need anything warm, then pop a blanket over you. And we'll take that sort of dual awareness of our inner and outer worlds into lying down. So let your awareness be expansive so you can sense what's happening, what you can feel within your body, your inner world. The flow of the breath. The flow of thoughts and feelings and images within you. And you can feel your skin, particularly maybe where the air is on your skin. So this is this point of connection between our inner and outer worlds. And then you can be aware of either light, the ground beneath you, sounds around you, the presence perhaps of others, animals. And then beyond your own home, the presence of everyone else in this class in their homes. the sun in the sky, the earth beneath us. The inner flow of the in and the out breath. So I'm going to ring the singing bowl now 3 times and just carry on lying until we get to the silence at the end of the 3rd ring. So take your time, everyone. Thank you. I'm going to unmute you in a moment. Everyone's a little chat.